get interviews with people en route, get your reactions on the film, get some of the scenery, and what we'd say is what we've done with the rally 2 years ago.
This is a wall. For some time, it was okay like this. Then after a while, I got this. Now, it's not the best art piece in the world, but it did give me something to look at rather than a blank wall. It's been on the wall for probably about 8 to 10 years now. Recently, I decided it was too boring and got these. Now, these are semi-identical, hand-painted on a night out, but they don't really work for this space. So, they had to go. Now eventually the blank canvas became a little bit too literal, and this happened. And in this video, what I'm going to show you is how to go from this to this. More specifically, how to make a floating frame around it. This is a very easy project. It basically involved no power tools at all. And the first thing I did was essentially cut down the angles that I needed for the frame. Once I was done cutting down the outer frame down to size, I then used the blue tape method just to get it fitting right. Excuse the bad lighting. I did this project because I had load shedding and I was bored. Did a test fit of the cut pieces, made sure that everything was square, and just taped everything together to get a sense of the final dimensions and see any gaps or mistakes that I had made in order to correct them. Test fit with the frame, then it was glue up time, and after glue up time comes clamp time. Now the other thing that I really did with this is that after the glue up, I then took my staple gun and just stapled the corners because they're really thin pieces of wood, and it basically added some strength onto the joints. of the final measurements, I then started gluing up the inner parts. At this point, this thing is almost done. It's really easy, guys. You can do it as well. A little more stapling. Once the glue was dry, I then took it out of the clamp and did another test fit, and it fit perfectly. Now I use the wood filler to just sort of cover up some blemishes and all those staple guns, and dropped it too. Wouldn't even know if you didn't see this. After the wood filler was dry, I then proceeded to sand everything flush to get it to a point where it's ready for finish. Again, this is a very easy project. I use the sanding block or sanding sponge with the desired grit just to get it ready. Once it was done sanding, I then just started wiping it off to get the dust off of it. And once that was done, for some reason I wiped the table with my hand. Wow, just wow. Now for the finish, I used a white poly based filler and some water just to thin the paint down, and so that it really just lightly coats it, and I can then wipe it off to give this whitewash finish. You can see it transforms the wood from a yellowy color to a more faded, more pale color. Still wood, but just slightly lighter. And here's a close-up of that process. Once that finish was dry, I then took the art piece and put it into final position. I used some of these small pieces of wood just to have even spaces on all four sides, or all four corners rather, and make sure that it looks very good, very neat and very professional. my staple gun for final attachment. And once that was done, I hung it up to have a beautiful piece on the wall with this whitewash floating frame. Please do try this. It's a very easy project, and let me know how it goes in the comment section.